Check 1, 2. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. My name's Dean. Good to be back. Good to be here. Good to be with you. And scene. Yeah, there we go. Nice to be here. We've got a show for you today, and it's kind of a fun show. We've got Lochlin Cross, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton, back on the program today. Lochlin Cross.
We're not going live.
No.
And I want to make a point of expressing my distaste for that. You have the ability to go live.
Yeah.
I love the engagement.
I know.
You're recording.
Mm-hmm. Not doing it. I'm not interested in going
I'm against it. I'm against it. I'm against it. I'm expressing my dissatisfaction. Is that a word?
Satisfaction. Yeah.
I'm dissatisfaction with this. This should be live.
I'm just happy you expressed your dissatisfaction on this program, and it shouldn't be live if I don't want to go live.
Absolutely, it should be live.
No,
you and I especially, we excel in live.
Anything can happen.
I'm going to put in 50% of the effort.
Are you really? You're going to put in half the work today? That'll be fun.
Half the effort today.
Half the topics we're going to do are yours, so just put in the effort for your topics, and then
do we want to bring Scorgie in right now, or do you want to talk about how much I've been pooing lately?
Oh, we'll get to the poo later because we got a poo story. That Delta Airlines flight. Did you see the biohazard flight? Did you see the person that had the shits all the way through the flight? I got to talk about it today.
I did.
Yeah. And I want to talk about Ron MacLean and Don Cherry too, so we'll get to that in just a couple minutes. But we should bring Scorgie.
Let's bring Scorgie,
documentarian, our friend and yours, Scorgie Productions. Adam, nice to see you.
Thanks for having me on again, boys.
Huh? Hey, here's a quick question. You're in your car.
Yeah.
I requested that that not be the case today from Lochlin. He clearly didn't say anything, which is great.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I know you didn't. And I don't care because I just love you and I'm happy you're here. So whatever. Who cares?
Dean goes, can we make sure that Adam isn't parked in a 7-Eleven parking lot?
I'm not in the 7-Eleven parking lot, so we're good there.
But here's the question that I have for you. You're in your car.
Yeah.
Did you experience any road rage on the way to where you're going? Yes or no?
No, I did not throw a Red Bull can. There has not been a need for alternative measures or any kind of anger management course. I was a very good boy today.
Yeah, you behaved yourself on the way to your child's school? Is that what you did?
Yeah, well, I got my certificate for anger management, so now I know how to go through the steps and keep myself calm. And when somebody cuts me off, I don't have to explode. I know how to walk
Serenity
through
now.
When the volcano's about to erupt, I know how to.
What happens in those anger management classes, by the way?
This is exactly why my wife threw away my certificate, so I could never say that I was approved, and I could be like, oh no, babe, calm down. I'm anger management certified. That's why she's like, this fucking thing is gone and in the garbage.
Right? I would have hung that.
No, I wanted to.
Put it up in your office next to your awards.
Anytime there would be an argument and I was in a calm mood, I would be like, babe, remember, certified, time to calm down. So that's why she knew. She chucked that shit immediately. It was like, this thing is fucking out the door.
You know what I love about
what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Yeah, a frame for the anger management certificate so you can put it above the fireplace.
We'll find one online and we'll put your name in it.
Yeah, there's only one guy on this call that had to go through anger management because he threw a can of Red Bull at a car that cut him off and gave him the finger and acted like a cocksucker. And apparently the real world doesn't really like real consequences anymore. So poor Adam had to go through an anger management course.
Hey, and for the record, Dean, I never threw it. I accidentally lost control while I was having words with them. Then it accidentally hit their car.
It just fell out of my hands, bounced up, smashed into his car. That's what happens with fizzy beverages.
Yeah. I was arguing and it perfectly flew out of my hand and hit their window.
Oh, I'm glad. Dude, hey, listen, we've all learned a lesson. I'm just shocked that you got a certificate from it.
Well, my friends that are cops always joke about that too. They're like, you got to be fucking kidding me. You got charged for assault with that? They're like, I would have given you a littering ticket at most. I'm like, right? That's what I was like, no one got hurt here except somebody's ego. He got checked and that was it. So
I got a certificate for online safety. We had to do one of those things at work where safety courses, how to be good online.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at the end of it, and it goes, click to print out your certificate. And I'm like, fuck yeah.
I'm printing out.
That's right by my computer at work.
That's how I got my boating
Still there.
license. I still don't know what any of the markers say, but I can boat the shit out of a boat. But I cheated on an online course and I got my boating license and I went out and bought a boat. And they're like, "Yeah, you got a license?" I'm like, "You bet." I have no idea how I got it. I just cheated. I had two computer screens up at the same time. I got my boating license. He's like, "Good. Next in line, your anger management certificate." Ask Adam. Anyway, good to have you, Adam. Always when we have you, we want to talk about a bunch of different things. I want to get to your Dane Cook documentary, but Lochlin's been bugging me about this, and he bugs me about it because he talks about it in the middle of a podcast for no reason, and then he called me yesterday, and he's like, "Did you hear the latest? Don Cherry and Ron MacLean might be friends again."
No,
I
said that they were communicating, and I said that I thought that was an interesting sort of angle that they may have reached out.
Yeah,
it's not confirmed, but that there may have been an attempt by one of the two of them to have some form of communication, and nothing's confirmed. Ron said that he's reached out to him, and then he said he's heard back from him. And I thought that was interesting. And again, we had you on this morning and you talked about the fact that the Pilsner drinking portion of Canada is more intrigued about this than anything. And maybe, like you said, hand me a Pilsner.
Yeah.
I always felt like Don, and again, it's not me condoning what he said. I always felt that he didn't get the exit he deserved for what he brought to that broadcast for 30 plus fucking years, right? Like, it just seemed like the wrong way for him to go out. And I also sided with Ron. Ron did the right thing. There was an apology that was needed for what was said, and he just saved his own skin. We all would have done it. I mean,
he kept his job, right? And I think that's the impetus here is that, Don says "you people" about people that come from other countries that didn't wear poppies. Is a alleged shot at immigrants. This is 2019, and the 89-year-old has been off the air since then. The article then goes on to say MacLean offered up a series of apologies on Cherry's behalf, and then Don was like, "I don't think we'll ever be friends again." Recent interview with John Shannon on the McCown podcast. He's like, "Hey, I speak on the phone. Basically, we touch base, offer to take him to a couple funerals, and we chat here and there, but we've always had our differences," which is what I said to you yesterday, right? Yeah. And so, but what amazes me about this isn't that this is what it is. What amazes me is, Scorgie, and I'd love your thoughts on this. What amazes me is that people give this much of a shit about two super old dudes being pals. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's man. Well, you guys know, because Locke, you still work in traditional media, and Dean, you used to be there. Is that like they're starving now? This is what traditional or legacy media goes for, is like clickbait argument stuff now, right? They've gotten rid of almost all their journalists, so they don't have like a lot of real stories anymore. So it's the stuff that's easy and triggers on the internet. And now I've fallen out of things a little bit because I know recently in Canada, they made a rule to try to save legacy media, where now they're not allowing news to be shared on social media sites. So you have to go.
That's a huge jerk-off move from the Trudeau government. That's them that's Bill C-18 you're talking about?
Yeah.
Bill C-18. Can you do me a favor? Pop out and pop back in again, because your audio is really tough to hear. Yeah, just pop out, just log out and log back in again if you can through Google Chrome, Adam. It's Adam Scorgie from Scorgie Productions. He joins us. We're going to talk a little bit about Don Cherry.
So funny. It's so funny what people think Bill C-18 is.
Isn't it?
Nobody
takes time to educate.
Nobody knows what it is, but it's not anybody's fault. It's how they're presenting Bill C-18. Right, we don't have time to go there, Scorgie, because we have so much more to talk about. But it'd be interesting if you do get time in the next couple of months. You should dig into Bill C-18, because it is not what you think it might be. And it is not an attempt to protect legacy media.
It's an attempt to give a whole bunch of money, get tech companies to give a whole bunch of money to a few different media outlets to super fuck everybody else, and then to make sure that we as individual content providers are regulated.
Cell phone bills.
Yeah.
Why do you?
That's what I'm reading behind. It was like when I said that's their guise of what they're trying to do. But to me, government's always trying to look for more control. And interesting, tying this back to Dane, it's kind of interesting, is Dane was one of the first comedians to really build his empire and his fan base through social media, through MySpace, which many listeners might not even know about that now, right? Because MySpace is dead. But MySpace should have and could have, they had the potential to be Facebook. Just they made their platform was hard to use. It wasn't user friendly like Facebook, and it didn't have a few things. But Dane built an empire. It actually got ridiculed. He got attacked by other comedians because they didn't like that he'd found this new way to directly talk to his audience. And when we were interviewing him and he was reminding me of just how awesome the internet was back then, when it was truly the Wild West, before it was all bots and algorithms that would hoodwink you and would only show you, like, you could organically connect with thousands of people in a way that was unprecedented for humans, essentially, and media, and anyone in, like, trying to create anything before that time. We did it on a smaller scale with the union. The business behind Getting High is that we created a Facebook page that had thousands of followers, and when we would post anything, we would get thousands of interactions, comments, likes, shares. Like, we built this audience of almost 1 million people, but now all the algorithms have hoodwinked that so badly that nothing.
They stomp on it.
Yeah.
You just get absolutely crushed unless you start throwing a bunch of cake at it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like Dane Cook is and Adam, we're still having some technical difficulties with your stuff. I'm not too sure what to tell you, but it's hard to hear you. If you could try to figure out, maybe log back in again, or maybe pop in after you get home if you get a chance, so that we can have you on to kind of finish that conversation, talk about the Dane Cook documentary, because I'm dying to talk to you about Dane Cook. He was my favorite comedian for like a year and a half, and I'm like, whatever happened to Dane Cook? And I've been saying that for like 20 minutes. I can't figure it out. Or sorry, 20 years now. But back to the Don Cherry stuff. The interesting part for me is that so many people still care so much about two guys that haven't worked together in almost 5 years.
Well,
and that everybody tried to fire like for the last 25 years. Like, I don't understand the excitement of these two guys have to be friends. They have to.
I think it's more than that. For me, it was about the exit. It's not about whether or not Ron and Don can, hug it out in the next year or two before.
So that was like front page news on the Toronto Star. Sorry, I'm going to pick my teeth with a piece of paper.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not, for me, it wasn't about that. But it is what I think the intriguing thing about it for many is that Don has been put up as some kind of a poster child for the segment of the population that rails against the overly woke, excuse me for using that term, the overly woke side of society, right? He's like our champion. He refused to apologize for something that he said, and so they've put him up on this pedestal, and then made Ron the Antichrist because Ron, he caved into big business, and the way I've always justified it from a broadcasting perspective is like, what, you and I, this is a different relationship, this podcast thing that we have going on for the last couple of years. But I've been on the air now in traditional media with two guys, very talented guys, and the culmination of the three of us, we have a good show. If you remove, I think we have a great show. I'll say that. If you remove one of those pieces, it's not the same show. And it doesn't matter which piece. It could be Locke, it could be Grant, it could be Jimmy. If there's just two of us on the air, it is just not the same show. We're way better as this unit, okay? And we all know that, and we've all accepted the fact that that's the case. We complement each other very, very well. And if they came along one day and said, "Hey, Locke, have you got a minute? We're going to have to let you go for something you said on the radio," I would never in a million years expect Grant and Jimmy to quit to stand up for me. Yeah. So why was the
sacrifice
rest
their
of
paycheck
the
and
world
ability to provide for their families just out of principle because you got fired for being a dick?
The money is very different.
Yeah.
And whether or not they're successful with or without me is beside the point. I would never expect those two to give up their careers because of something that came out of my mouth.
Mhm.
So that's why I was always surprised at how Ron got sold down the river, right? And again, I understand it from the perspective of Don became this poster child for this overly woke, this group that was railing against the overly woke society. But still, come on.
You want them to be friends. You still got a soft spot.
I do not. Okay, yes, I do. I want a Disney ending. I wanted him to go out differently. Yeah. Right? He was a dick on the air for how many years? He said way worse stuff than that.
Oh my God. Like the stuff that Don, like you go back and you YouTube Don Cherry, like xenophobia or YouTube Don Cherry misogyny. Like it is on. Like the stuff that he said in the 70s and 80s. He's like, I don't want any of those fucking losers coming here and eating our fish. That's fish for Canadians. And it's like, holy shit, dude. Like fucking it's unbelievable. And it's like, I know the temperature has changed and I get it. And I know Don got railroaded. I know he did. I know he got absolutely railroaded by Sportsnet and CBC and the producers of Hockey Night in Canada. I know they didn't support him.
They were trying to get out of a fucking $9 million contract or whatever.
And they were trying to get out from under with cause, by the way, because when you're accused of doing something like that, Adam knows this is an employer. I know this is an employer. When you give someone notice with cause, it's like, hey, and by the way, we're not paying you, so go fuck yourself, right? You save on the bottom line.
I have a feeling, though, that his lawyers probably did a pretty decent job of getting him a package.
They probably did.
Yeah,
I would say so. From what I know from a little bit of Canadian, they're like vanilla when it comes to legal battle. They're not strong, so they usually do threaten stuff like that. I'm sure they probably got a nice settlement out of there. Yeah, I would agree with Locke. Got a nice.
It sucks. His audio is so bad. Adam,
we just lost him too. Yeah, fuck. Can you just send him a text and tell him to when he gets back home just to hop on from home if you can. Because I want to talk to him about that Dane Cook documentary. I got stuff lined up for it. I want to talk about who does a documentary about Dane Cook and how interesting it's going to be because Dane Cook is an interesting guy. But back to Don Cherry and Ron MacLean, the fact that there is oxygen around this story, and the story is, let me just read you the headline. Ron MacLean says he's back in touch with Don Cherry.
Well, and again, Adam's right. That was a little clickbaity based on what I read. And I watched the podcast that Ron was on. It's not like they've come to terms. It just I thought it was interesting that Ron is still attempting to try to make amends, make peace.
You know how that works?
With Don.
I'll tell you how that works. I'll tell you how that probably works with Ron and Don. I know Ron. I've met Don, interviewed him a bunch of times. Like them both. No issues with either. Don is almost 90 years old. He's 89, right? Yeah. Ron's got to be in his late 60s, I think. It's probably mid to late 60s. Ron feels like, for himself, he needs to get in touch with Don because he wants to be the guy that doesn't leave any stone unturned from this relationship he's had for 40 years. Don doesn't give a fuck. I mean, we know that by Don, right? Like Don just doesn't give a fuck. And Don has been through some things. He's not only been publicly chastised, he's been treated like shit by a large portion of like Purity Canada. The people that like to get into the purity firing squad circles and point guns at the unpure, even though they've got shit in their closets, and even though they've said stuff that we all would cancel them for in their lives and all the other shit. And Don got railroaded by the. So Don is unhappy with Canada. Don is unhappy with Hockey Night in Canada's viewership. Don is unhappy because he's 89 years old and his swan song was a fuck you by the public after being named the greatest Canadian in history, or one of them. That's one of my problems. So someone pulled the entire rug out from underneath Don. So what goes on in Don's mind is this: fuck everybody. And I know that because I feel it. And especially fuck Ron MacLean, because Don is 89 and he comes from a time when if two guys left a trench, right, to go and fight, they did it knowing they'd both die. Some people stayed in the trench. Don was like, where was everybody? Where was my trench mate? Where's my foxhole guy? And it's like, no, it's not a war, bud. Like, it's not how this works. This is like, if I quit my job and if I fall on my sword and if I don't apologize for this seemingly innocuous bullshit, because what Ron had to do was apologize for literally 30 years of Don. Okay? It wasn't that one thing. And I know this as someone who was fired for one thing, which was just as fucking ridiculous. But it was like 500 other things that came before that. So the world goes nuts. There's YouTube videos of Ron making fun of immigrants. There's like, I mean, it's on and on and on, calling people from different countries soft and go back to your own, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then CBC knows it's out there. Sportsnet knows it's out there. And they're like, dude, new environment. You're 85. Just apologize and we'll move on. Just clarify and apologize. And he's like, fuck you. And I have respect for fuck you in that case, because maybe he has fuck you money. Maybe he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't want to deal with the flotsam and jetsam of corporate crap. They put both of those guys through the ringer for 10 years prior to that.
And that's what's not being said out loud. Don was getting sick of the over analyzation of the segment, and always felt that he kind of got it there on his own accord. And now he's got some 35-year-old kid in the room that ended up with a boss because he stroked the right. And then he's all of a sudden making calls about what shouldn't be said on that segment. And they were shortening it and they were doing all sorts of stuff to it. It's people trying to over justify their existence in the world. Right. And again, I don't know.
You just what?
You kind of wanted a different ending. That's all.
Everybody likes a happy ending. I know. And again,
it's not about friendship. Like no. I have people that I worked with that were across from me every day for long periods of time that will never talk to me.
Shocker.
And I understand that. I understand that. But I mean,
what do you mean?
That one's different.
Ron and Don?
That's different to me.
You know what? It's the same. I'll tell you what. It's like when your favorite band breaks up. It's the same shit, right? Like I remember when Kurt Cobain died, I was like, oh, that sucks because I fucking love Nirvana. And they're like, 3 albums in and he's dead and that sucks and all that stuff. And it's like, or like, a Rush fan when one of the members of Rush passed, Neil Peart. Everybody's like, that sucks because that's not the ending I wanted. Not guaranteed any happy endings here. You might be, depending on how much you pay. And if you ask for full service or a nude reverse, you might be guaranteed a happy ending. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
However,
is that a thing? I don't even know what that is.
Full service is, full service. Rub and tugs. We're talking now. Do you need me to spell it out for you? Happy ending.
I know what we're talking about, but I didn't know the lingo.
Yeah. And nude reverse is when you switch spots. So she goes, or depending on if it's a male massage, the masseur, they get naked on the table and then you get to do your business. It's an incredible deal. I've only heard these stories, and that is the truth. I've never.
It really does sound like you have more experience in this than you're willing to admit. But
I think you're playing coy about it to try and hang.
I couldn't.
I couldn't do it either.
To God, I
could never go into a rub and tug. I could never pay for any sexual favors. It will never happen in my life. Anyway, back to happy endings and Ron and Don. It stands to reason that Ron and Don are a collection of their own experiences, and they reacted according to the collection of their own experiences, and they both chose a path. And there's a narrative out there that Ron is a fucking turncoat, which is stupid because he chose a paycheck instead of choosing death by guillotine, right? Pretty simple.
But I also think that Ron kind of thought, have you ever seen Pence when they're talking about like the resurrection down there, January 6th?
Oh, the insurrection.
Insurrection, yeah, not resurrection.
No, that's
the
Jesus.
That's different.
That's the Christ. And that never happened either, by the way.
So anyway, Pence was like, I always thought he'd come around.
Did you hear that the other day? As the interview on CNN, they're like, why didn't you say anything about him trying to steal the election?
I thought he'd pull his head out of his ass.
I'm just waiting for him to
come around. I think Ron thought the same thing. I just assumed that maybe he realized that a simple apology would put another like $10 million in his bank.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you, where like, if a big old paycheck, and I think Dom was making about $1.2 million to $1.2 million a year. That was his contract said.
I think it was higher than that.
I don't think so. But let's just call it a cool mill, right?
Okay,
Let's just call Don Cherry's
That's a
paycheck
lot of money.
Cool mill. Yeah.
To do a 3-minute segment once a week.
Yeah. To appear between.
I know there's more to it.
To appear for 7 minutes between period 1 and period 2 of a hockey game, one night a week.
Yeah.
Whatever. Would you, in that situation, apologize to save a paycheck?
Yeah. I would.
Even if you didn't mean it.
Yeah. Even if I didn't mean it. Yeah, I would have apologized. There's been times when I've been forced to apologize for stuff I didn't mean, and you suck it up. Or the apology I didn't mean.
How do you apologize? Is it hard?
We were talking last night.
You and the
wife?
Or you and me?
No, you and me. We were talking last night about
hammered last night when you had your face in your hand and you called me and you're like, "Hey man," that one.
I was right out of my tree, but I do remember our conversation. And the thing about me, and I'm not expecting to get credit for this ability, but I have this thing that I can do when I'm in tough situations, when I'm in uncomfortable situations that are not easily controlled, whether it's conflict or a tough interview, where I get this sort of 360 look on the room, and I can evaluate the situation and I can negotiate the waters. This might surprise people. For somebody as mouthy as I have been, and for somebody who has the ability to say things out loud in certain situations, I've never been beat up. That's not true. When I was younger, I did get my lunch handed to me a couple of times.
Yeah.
But I've always had this ability to sort of negotiate tougher situations. And you do that when you're in a room where you're being grilled, I guess, or where there's a conversation about something you did wrong.
There's a tense, conflictual conversation.
So
Yes.
I would be able to go, all right, what do you need what is going to satisfy this situation?
Solution.
And how would you like me to go about doing that?
Yeah.
And the other thing is I think anybody that's maintained a career in this business that has an opinion, and whether you like me or not, one of the things that people will say about me is that I've always had an opinion about things and I've had the ability to share it. Do
they qualify that as a well-researched opinion, or did you just say it's an opinion?
No, that would never go along with that statement. No, absolutely not, Dean.
Dude, I love you because you're honest. Continue. Sorry, I didn't mean.
Anyway, so yeah, I have figured out how to negotiate the world that I live in.
Yeah. And
I'm talking about broadcast. And I find it interesting when people talk about, oh, it's so woke now, you can't say this. And I'm like, no. There's just been different things you can't talk about. And there's just been things, and it's changed over the years, right? You've listened to our show and you even said, man, and you had one of the edgiest shows in Canada for a lot of years. You were known as that guy. Like, that's how you built your career on the edge. Yeah. And you've heard our show and you're like, wow, I can't believe some of the topics that you discuss. But I
think it was the midget tossing that really shook me a few years ago. That was one of the ones where I'm like, oh my God, they're still tossing midgets in Alberta. That's incredible. And that's how I found out who you were. I'm like, this guy is tossing midgets. I need to fucking get close to him.
We've never really tossed Jimmy because he's too heavy.
You bowled with them. Anyway, continue. Yeah, stuff like that.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
I figured out what it is that you can and can't do, and I've just paid attention, and things have shifted. Right? Like, there's less concern about swearing on the air now than there used to be. Like, you wouldn't have been able to
on the radio.
I do all the time.
Can you say fuck?
No, although Scorgie was on today and dropped 2.
He dropped 2 F-bombs and no one said anything? No complaints?
No.
Oh, so swearing's okay now on the radio?
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
The F word is still not acceptable.
Sea sucker? Can you say sea sucker? No.
That
C-word?
one.
Drop a C word?
You could say cock, I think.
You can say cock on the radio now?
Well,
We should get back on the radio.
that one's questionable. I wouldn't know what to do.
What swears do you use regularly on traditional radio right now? Lochlin Cross from 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton.
Well, I don't use the F word. I say shit, bastard.
Yeah.
You know what? The thing is, it's funny what triggers people.
I know. I want to go through the list of the language you use. What other words have you used?
Like, I remember a couple years ago, they were all over me about saying penis. And they were like, what? But Grant says dink all the time. And
cock.
I'm like,
Can you say
cock? That one I'm on the fence on. I'm not sure.
No, is it legal?
I've dropped it.
Can you? Yeah, I know you've dropped it, but I'm saying you haven't been fired for it. So what words have you said that you haven't been fired for? Maybe that's the better question.
Well, I mean, I've said the F word on the radio. Like I've accidentally done that, and I've been in the room when other people have done it on traditional radio, right? But man, you want to talk about flop sweats?
Oh,
when
yeah. We had David Carradine on once. It was like 2 months before he strangled himself to death in a Thai hotel room. This is a true story.
He was beating off.
He was jerking off. That's why he tied himself up in a Thai hotel room. He was doing hentai. So he comes in, David Carradine, Kung Fu Panda or whatever he is, the Kung Fu guy. Remember David Carradine, Kung Fu Panda, whatever. Hi-ya.
Kill Bill.
Kung Fu guy. Kill Bill. Yeah.
He was awesome in Kill Bill.
So he comes in to talk about Kill Bill. This is a true story. So he comes in and he's wearing his leather jacket, and I go and meet him, and he just reeks like rye. It was awesome. I'm like, hey, buddy, how you doing? He's like, still fucking hammered.
That's and I'm like, drops on here.
No, that was like before we get on the air.
Okay.
So then David Carradine makes his way up the steps. I walk up with him. I'm like, here, you can have a seat here. Nice to meet you. He's like, yep. Lights up a smoke inside the studio. I'm like, it's David Carradine, Kung Fu Panda. He's allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants. He's here to sell Kill Bill. He's the star of Kill Bill.
I'm going to let him smoke.
Same with Josh Homme, who came in and got hammered.
Josh.
Yeah.
Queens of the Stone Age. He smoked on the air when I
Absolutely.
had him on.
You let him smoke. I don't give a shit. Like, what am I going to say to David Carradine? There's a bylaw in effect that says you can't smoke in here. I'm like, no, go fuck, smoke away. I said, hey, listen. The only thing you can't do is swear. You can't say fuck. That's it. Because it was like 15 years ago, right? When they're like, do not say the word fuck. You can say the word, you can say the R word, and you can call people gay, but you can't say fuck.
See, that's interesting you bring that up because...
finish the story. Because what you'll do is you'll take this totally sideways and we'll never get anywhere. You're welcome. So I said, Mr. Carradine, can you just do me a huge favor and not say the word fuck? And he's like, no problem. So I opened the microphone. Pleasure to be joined today by the star of Kill Bill, legendary actor, Kung Fu Panda, whatever the fuck I called him, Mr. David Carradine. Mr. Carradine, pleasure to meet you. He goes, it's fucking awesome to be in this fucking studio with you fucking guys. And I went, this is going to be awesome. Sweat immediately started to bead from my face all the way down my back. The bat phone starts going off. This is a little phone you have in your studio that had a light on it because it wasn't allowed to ring. Because if they called you to fucking, if your boss called you to yell at you in the middle of a break, you wasn't supposed to go on the air. So the bat phone starts ringing red. And then my email starts getting filled up. Take him off the radio. Take him off the radio. Shut his microphone off. Because he proceeded to say the F word about 50,000 more times in a fucking 10-minute interview. And I'm like, in for a penny, in for a pound. Like, I mean, who gives a shit at this point?
At that point, I think I would have kept going too.
Well, I knew. Like, I'm just going to let this guy fucking talk. I could care less. And so get off the air. We go through a litany of complaints. Like, we got, I'm going to say 300 or 400 complaints about that one show, 300 or 400 complaints. And I thought to myself, this is fucking stupid. This is how people talk.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I started to go, this is not a realistic venture to work on the radio. Anyway, I love that word. And the fact that people can't use it on terrestrial radio means everybody gets disconnected because nobody doesn't swear. And if you don't swear, I won't hang out with you because that means you're religious.
For me, it's different now. I have a different relationship with swearing. with doing the podcast with you. But there'll be days when I get off the pod with you and I go, oh, that was too much. I shouldn't have done that. Right. Like there have been more than a couple of times where we've had content, where we've had discussions where I felt like I may have pushed too far. And I'm constantly in my own mind readjusting what it is that where I can go, the lines that I can cross. It's constantly moving, and it moves depending on where you are in your career and what you can and can't get away with, what the audience expects of you and how much they know about you. Mm-hmm. It moves with the times. It moves with who's the boss, to be honest with you. Like
it's 100% subjective.
Yeah. And 100%. So you adjust accordingly. And a lot of it is just testing the waters, right? Like,
yeah, you got to trial balloons, right? That's what we do.
Yeah. Like today, if you go back and listen to the interview that we had with Adam, and I posted it on my Twitter, I think you can go have a listen to it. And he talks a lot about the Dane Cook interview. And at some point we'll get him on to talk about the Dane Cook doc, because he'll probably have different things to say on the podcast with the two of us. But when he dropped it, it was in casual conversation. And if you weren't paying attention, you would have missed it. Like, and because we live in this podcast world, and Adam's he's not a broadcaster.
No.
Right. He's dropped
authentic.
it. Yeah. He's authentic, and it's how he speaks and communicates with people. And because he's more used to doing interviews like this than traditional mainstream radio than anything, like, he slipped up. So I'm not mad at Adam for swearing, but literally, like, you're like, whoa,
start shitting your pants.
And you don't know. I don't know why, because it's all based on
learned behavior, dude. It's like, you and I grew up in a time where you go on the radio, right? Especially if you're in a major market or a head office town. So I did mornings on a radio station in Toronto for 15 years. And so everybody listens all the time, and you're always on the radar because of the kind of content that we used to do. And it was fucking great content for 15 years. We were number one. It was great. It's over. Don't care. It's all done. However, when you're in a head office town, it's like, you can't get away from it. Like, the complaints don't just go to your boss. They go to your boss's president, right? And they're like, oh, well, I got to keep an eye on that. Oh, we got to keep an eye on that. And it's this anxiety that builds up because you have a consistent series of meetings where they're threatening your employment. And if anybody knows anything about traditional media, the threat of losing your job in a diminishing industry isn't a ton of fun, right?
No.
And so you just get panicky. And we go back to the same situation. We can talk about the state of media. I don't really feel like getting into it. But that's the advantage that we have here, right? And that's really the problem that I have with going back to the Don Cherry thing. A lot more people talk like Don Cherry than Ron MacLean. Like, the sanitized version of the things that we see on television, the things we hear on mainstream media.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Don't look into how people act and talk. It's fucking hard to listen to. Like, I cannot watch an evening news update. You know why? Because when I'm talking to someone or getting an update or I'm reading, I'm not getting it from someone in a suit that's got fucking makeup on, that's got, all this shit. And I'm not getting it from someone who's talking like this. I would rather hear someone, like, I'd want a newscast. If you ask me how we're going to change mainstream media puts a show on where the news anchor goes, everything's fucked in Missouri. Yeah, and then they give the story about Missouri. Can you believe this bullshit that's happening in Ukraine? And then they talk about that like we talk about things, right? And that's the problem that we have, is the sanitized version of the shit that you see on television. And what they've tried to keep people away from by doing super clean, really ridiculous church media, because that's what we get now, church media. And then there's this outlet on demand at any point in time where people can say, hey, I'm going to go listen to a podcast because I choose to listen to it, because I choose to not.
Because it's authenticity. Because people are looking, they're looking for real. But hold on, back the train up here just a minute. And I know you don't want to jump into these waters about the state of the current media landscape.
Really don't,
no. I'm not going to go there.
Awful.
I'm not going to go there, but I will say I understand where the fear comes from because
Public.
but the reason why they're fearful of it is because
No spine.
Because one, people have lost the ability to they don't have the time to deal with it anymore because of the consolidation in our business. So you used to have a whole bunch of employees and we used to have too many managers, right? And then all of a sudden they were like, why do we have all these managers? Why do we have all these air shows? Let's voice track. So now you have a skeleton crew running each of these operations. And this is happening not just in radio, but also in print and television. And there's just less people to deal with stuff. So they don't want to come in and deal with a complaint from the 6 o'clock news host. So when they get a complaint, they overreact and send the wrong message to the talent because all they're trying to do is just avoid having to deal with these complaints. So that's the state of the media that
Which
we're
is
in
their
right now.
job.
I know, Dean, I know, but I understand it. I get it. And I would probably be in the same boat. And then the other thing that happens in this unauthentic world that we're in is sometimes when you jump into the content world and you jump into a pool and you take a side or you put a flag in the mountain and you go, all right, I'm going to be on this side of things and let's see what kind of reaction we can get. You stir up this hornet's nest that you didn't intend to stir up. And then for whatever reason, that side, one side or the other, and it's the right and the left now. I mean, I hate using that expression, but it kind of fits for the point I'm trying to make. What ends up happening is you stir that side up and then they get mobilized and then they get their friends together. And then all of a sudden you're not dealing with one complaint, you're dealing with like 30. I remember when the 15-minute city was a conversation not long ago. And I jumped into those waters on the radio show. And I was like, this is ridiculous. We're never going to get there. And I wasn't against 15-minute cities. I was making a point about the fact that we have politicians that have lost all touch with what they should be doing. Like they don't even mow the lawns and clean the streets in our city. The last thing you should expect is them getting together and getting mobilized and creating 15-minute cities. It's never going to fucking happen. So why are we having a conversation?
I live in Toronto. They haven't created a 3-hour city here. Like,
Exactly. We're never going to get to that point.
No.
Why are you worried? Well, that riled up the left to the point where they started sending letters to head office. Here's what happened. The people in Saskatchewan that run our company were getting letters and complaints about my views on 15-minute cities without listening to it and without really hearing what it was. Not only that, it didn't even matter that they didn't listen because I wouldn't have listened either.
Do you know
they didn't know what the fuck a 15-minute city was.
But they had a problem with it.
So what they said was, can you just tell them to stop talking about it? Right?
Because we don't want to get these emails.
Because they didn't know what they were.
Well,
here's the why is Karen so mad at Locke about his stance on 15-minute cities?
This is the disconnect. Is that we made it really easy. Businesses made it really easy for every idiot with a fucking keyboard or a phone to complain.
That's the other issue.
Yeah. And there are a lot of idiots. Now, I do not like Elon Musk at all. He's a fascist. He's
Which
an
is
asshole.
weird to me.
He's
Why?
a fucking anti-Semite. He's an idiot. But one thing he did, I fucking love. So you know how Twitter had this thing was like, let us know if you have any complaints. Send us this email. This is where you can lodge a complaint or a question or a query. Customer service. Great customer service.
This is good. I've never
it's
even
fucking
heard of
awesome. And I kind of like it. I was like, I like that move. And everybody's like, I can't believe this happens. Every time we send an email to Twitter, we get this one response. Do you know what the response is? And it's standard, and you can read about it anywhere. So CNN will send an email. We'd like to confirm this story. You'll send an email saying my block button doesn't work. The response you get is a poop emoji.
How do you not like him? I'm
I
sorry.
fucking love that. That's the only story about this guy that I've heard where I'm like, touche. I like you. Because fuck you, right? It's my business.
I
You don't like how I
honestly-
do it, go fuck yourself. And I like I don't like what he's done to the platform, even though our engagement's through the roof and we drive a ton of traffic on X or whatever it is, Twitter. But I can tell you this, and this is the truth. I am capable of that 360 view where I pull my head out of my ass and I'm like, I'm going to detach my hatred for that shithead and I'm going to applaud the one thing that he's done, which is he's turned his complaint line into a repository of poop emojis where someone can complain and what they'll get back in their email is just a shit emoji. I love it. And if more radio stations and more television stations and more businesses took that approach of like, let's treat the inauthentic complaints like we should, and let's fucking give it back to dumber Canada or dumber North America that doesn't have the ability to lodge a normal complaint because all they're here to do is sow chaos. I would fucking be super proud of that company, no matter what company that was. Like, listen, you get a complaint that says, hey, I'm being stalked by someone on Twitter. Sure, take it seriously. If you get a complaint that says, I don't like the new block button and Elon Musk is a fascist, he owns it. The poop emoji is the fucking best response of all time because it's his. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. But we are such a hyper-aware society of like, we want to look like we give a shit about the people that we're spoon feeding this garbage to. So we open up the line of communication to crazies, every single moron that can't manage their own life to complain about Lochlin talking about 15-minute cities. Then they get deluged by a bunch of fucking morons in a chat site that says, send a complaint to Lochlin's boss, send a complaint to Dean's boss. Do it, by the way. It's just my boss's email address is dean@crier.co. That'll be a lot of fun. And then everybody has a great time. Like we have a comment section. In the comment section, we manage it because we look at the comments. We have a complaint department. The complaints, we manage it. The complaints that are clearly ridiculous, we do not deal with. In fact, we will send emails back to people going, get a life. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care. I'm going to email your sponsors. Go ahead. I'll send this to them anyway. Like, if more businesses and people stood up against pure stupidity, we'd be in a much better place.
I think something happened, and I don't know where it was, and we ended up on a slippery slope where we allowed that voice to have a say. And then it fueled it.
They put that voice on the board of directors and in the management team.
Yeah.
They put crazy people that complain anonymously on the board of directors and on the management team. That's what that is. So that's what woke corporate Canada or woke corporate America is. That's bullshit. It's just.
But then we're full circle here. You can understand why Don Cherry has become the poster child for that anti-movement, right? For those that are mad about where we're at in society and angry about the fact that you can't, you're going to get in trouble for saying something, even if it was a misstep, right? Yeah.
Speaking of in trouble, moving on from Don Cherry and woke society and people that complain. And by the way, if you complain, there might not be anything worse that a human being can do. Complain. Complainers are losers. Fix your shit. Fix your shit. Let other people let me finish. Let other people live their lives. And if you hear something you don't like or read something you don't like, shut the fuck up, read or hear or watch something else. Holy shit, man.
I don't understand why people need to let somebody know that they disagreed with them. That's
fucking losers. We've been over this.
I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't know if I would call them losers.
They are. Anybody who complains about things they can't control or change is just a fucking complainer. Fuck you.
I've got an example of this on the show, and we're dealing with this tomorrow. If I can tease, well, no, hold on. This is recorded, so it might run after Friday. Or is this running tomorrow? Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, we're recording Thursday. See, this is why I hate doing recorded shows.
Don't worry about it. You're okay.
Okay, so anyway, I've been bitching, and I want to say this first. I want to say this out loud. I'm a McDonald's fan. I like their coffee. I like the sausage and egg McMuffin. Have you had the mighty one now where they put bacon and sausage in it? Awesome.
Nope.
Love it. I go once a week. It's a treat. If I'm in a hurry, I'll grab.
What's it called? The mighty sandwich?
The mighty McMuffin, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I've never heard of it. Yeah,
it's
I don't
new.
go to McDonald's.
It's good. It's good. Anyway, so I wasn't complaining about that, but I was complaining about this being moved up to the next window. And so I've been bitching about this for the last couple of weeks. And now I've got somebody that's going to call me that works at McDonald's, and she's going to explain why they do it. And we got her on the show. So you'll have to tune in for
content. That's for content, though.
I'm legitimately upset about the fact that, but the thing is
what are you upset about? I'm confused about what you're upset about. Tell me what you complained about at McDonald's.
You're going to make me do this, aren't you?
I am. I want to know what your complaint is, because I happen to have a fucking hard-on against complaining. So please continue. I'd like to see how terrible your life is.
Well, you shouldn't listen to my show then. I've been bitching about this for 2 weeks on the locker.
All right.
So you go up to the window. It's 4:30 in the morning.
Early.
Okay? There's nobody at McDonald's, the drive-thru. Thank God they're open. And they'll take my order and they'll go, can you move up to the next window, which is 25 feet ahead, and we're going to bring you your food. And then, okay, so that happens 1 out of 5 times that I'm going through a McDonald's drive-thru. So I'll drive up to the window, and 50% of the time I'm waiting at that window, they forget about me. So they might take a couple of orders, and now I've been there for 10 minutes, and they haven't brought me my food. And the problem I have with it is they're actually just creating more work for themselves, in my very humble opinion, because now they have to run another 30 feet, 25 feet to take me my food to another window. Just serve me and then deal with the next guy. I told you weren't going to like this. And I'm like, somebody needs to explain this to me. And it drives me crazy when they do it. I lose my mind.
Explain what to you? Explain
why they do that.
You at the second window instead of the first window?
Just serve me, get me out of there, and get the next guy. You're going to actually end up saving yourself. It's going to be less work to do that.
Are you that concerned for the workload of a fucking McDonald's?
No, I don't want to sit there for 6-7 minutes waiting for my fucking sausage and egg McMuffin.
Well, just tell them that then. Just tell them that. Say, listen, I don't have 6 minutes.
My new strategy is, and I'm not going to be a dick about it, if they ask me to move up and I haven't had a chance to do it, I'm just going to go, please explain to me why you do this. And then I'm just going to have a conversation with them until my food's ready. And then they'll have to serve me at the window.
Yeah. Think you'll get the shits after from the mighty McMuffin?
No, and Grant is like, they're going to screw with your food. Just don't be rude to the takeout people.
Yeah. Don't inform them that 30 feet makes all the difference in your day.
By the way,
they will do something for you. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
That's an excellent segue, because you talked about getting the shits or them poisoning my meal, which I'm not suggesting they would, but I would be the first person I would poison, because I'm not that pleasant in the mornings. I'm sorry. Or spit or whatever. Or drop it on the floor and
floor spice, they call that.
Floor spice. Anyway, and they don't do that. My meal is always very tasty at McDonald's. And we've got Carmen on the show, whether it'll happen tomorrow or next week or whenever this runs, I don't know. We're going to talk to her. She's 16 and she's going to explain why they do it. Okay. Right. So her mom set this up.
Okay.
So anyway, we'll have her on the locker room. Now, here's the thing about shitting. And I wanted to get into this today. And I'm going to make this quick. I have discovered something.
Yeah.
I started looking into this Mediterranean diet. And I'll be honest, I'll tell you why. So my wife and I make good food. And she will get, I'd say a couple of times in a month, 3-4 times a month, we get a Mediterranean dish. And I'm always like, Deborah, I love these. Like if a Mediterranean dish comes up, get it. And she's like, I agree. So we love the Mediterranean dishes. So I was getting ready for a show a couple of weeks ago, week and a half ago. And I do this segment called Dr. Locke because my scene card says I'm a doctor. So I've taken it upon myself to pass on medical advice to the listeners.
Oh, dude, you're just one of like 4 million Albertans that do that on Twitter, but you do it on the radio. That's great.
I'm glad you picked up on the irony. I had this one guy comment and he goes, I don't know why you're giving out dietary advice. You're an idiot on the radio. And my response was, Hey, good for you working that out. Anyway, so
Yeah. Way to figure
so
that
anyway,
out.
I was doing this research I was doing research for the show, and I was reading this article about the Mediterranean diet and why it's so good for you. La, 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 la. And then at the end of the article, they went and started talking about this drink that they drink in the Mediterranean that's popular in that with people that live in that area, live in that region. And it's pretty common to drink this at night.
What's it called?
I don't know what it's called, but it's cinnamon. You take a teaspoon. They said a tablespoon, but cinnamon is very aggressive. So I've adapted the recipe, and I just do like a coffee cup of it at night. I do a teaspoon of cinnamon. I do a tablespoon of honey, and I do 2 tablespoons of lemon, and I pour hot water in it, stir it up to get the cinnamon in there as best I can. And I drink that every night. And I've been drinking it consistently. I've missed maybe 1 or 2 nights in the last 2 weeks. And this is what I wanted to talk about, because I have never in my life shit this much. Like, Dean, it is coming out of me. What's that?
Fennel, cinnamon, and fennel tea. Is that what it is?
Maybe that's what it's called. I didn't. They just said it was a popular drink, and then so I took the recipe down and I've been making it. And they were saying that the reason why you should drink this is because it is supposed to spark your metabolism. And they went on to talk a little bit about how all these fad diets quite often don't actually get your metabolism going, and that's what most of us need. Like if you're dealing with and that's why the intermittent fasting and certain foods work in diet plans, because they spark your metabolism, and this drink is apparently supposed to do it. Well, for me, it is just basically flushing the poo out of me. And I am telling you, if in the last 2 weeks, if I had taken all the poo that's come out of me and put it in a bucket, it would be equal to how much shit I have had this year.
Thank you for that.
And
great.
I've been thinking about it, and I was telling you about this last night. It's concerning me. I'm 50 years old. Why haven't I shit like that? Like, what's happened? Like, where's all that shit?
I don't know. I can't speak to it. I can't speak to your digestive system. I can't speak to the trigger that is in the tea and the Mediterranean food. I cannot speak to it. I am just happy for you. I am very pleased for you.
It's remarkable.
Well, as a 50-odd, 55, what are you, 53, 54?
53.
53-year-old man. That's
Born in
great
1970.
news. I'm really happy for you. I am not happy for the person that was on a Delta flight the other day, because that's a different. Maybe they drank way too much tea. Have you heard this story?
This
bothers me.
This is a great story. Do you have the audio from the pilot calling back to Atlanta?
Not only do I have the audio, I have the article. I don't know if anybody read this. Flight from Atlanta to Barcelona forced to make an emergency landing because someone had, quote, explosive diarrhea all over the plane. They did. According to the New York Post at crier.co, this was written by my friend Chris. Delta flight from Atlanta to Barcelona forced to turn around, make an emergency landing after a passenger had diarrhea all the way through the plane. Airbus A350 aircraft was 2 hours into a transatlantic flight from Georgia to Spain on Friday when the pilot was asked to come back because of the fecal fiasco. Quote, "This is a biohazard issue," pilot said to the air traffic control, recorded from live ATC, shared on Twitter. "We've had a passenger who's had diarrhea all the way through the airplane.
All the way
through. Come back to Atlanta. The identity of the passenger remains a mystery. The passenger and crew were transferred to a different flight that made it to Barcelona the next day. Not known if the passenger had diarrhea. Was aboard the plane when it touched down. Doesn't matter if the person got to Barcelona. What matters is the audio, as Lochlin has kindly pointed out, and the video from the plane. Let's get to the video from the plane, because this is indeed, as the article states, diarrhea all over the plane. I have never in my life, and I have flown a lot this year. I've been on, I don't know, 5 transatlantic flights, 6 total, 3 trips, 10. I've never, ever, ever, ever. And if this happened on the flight that I was on, I would shit my pants as well. It is one of the more disgusting videos you'll watch. So I'm just giving you lots of warning. This is the airplane. cleanup crew taking video after the person had been taken off the flight, after everybody else got taken off the flight, after this person shit the entire plane. Let's watch it together.
It's pretty remarkable.
See the tarps. Saw a little bit of shit back there. They ran out of tarps and blankets to mop up the shit, and this is where it gets very real, Lochlin.
Wow.
Here we go. And yeah, there we are.
Oh my God.
That is unbelievable. How many rows is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is clearly economy. And
do you feel bad for this person?
So bad. So bad. I feel terrible for this person.
You know what happens too, right? Like
they shit
you're
themselves.
At a certain
That's
point,
what happens.
You're 2 hours in, and there's a lineup at the bathroom,
and you're hot.
They were probably at the back trying to get into the crapper at the back, and then there was like, that's maybe I should run and see if the next one. And as they were running, the shit was flying out of them. I know exactly what that is. By the way, that's my new idea for the greatest wrestling name of all time. You would win every match.
Diarrhea Man?
Explosive Diarrhea.
Explosive
Welcome to the ring, Explosive Diarrhea. No one's getting in there with you.
I can't. This is so fucking funny to me. I don't understand. I feel sorry for the person too, because I know what it's like. You know that when you have
they were clearly sick.
You got a problem, and you're like, as you pointed out, everybody's been there. You're cramping, you're getting hot, you start getting the sweats, your abdomen starts to ache, your lower back starts to ache, and you're like, I need to hit a bathroom right now. And you might be with your significant other, and it might be new, and you're like, oh my God, I got to shit. I can't let her know I have to shit. And you got a choice to make. You either shit yourself.
I'm feeling sympathy cramps right now.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
Yeah,
I'm feeling too. Not as cool though as the video that I'm about to play for you. The air traffic control call about the shit plane biohazard might be the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life, because someone was on the other end of that call, right? So apparently the pilots and the stewardesses are like, yeah, just so you know, we've got explosive diarrhea. So they call back to the air traffic controller, and this is the alarm bell that he rang. Here, let's watch this together.
Negative. It's just a biohazard issue. We've had a passenger who had diarrhea all the way through the airplane, so they want us to come back to Atlanta.
That's
negative. It's just a biohazard issue. We've had a passenger who had diarrhea all the way through the airplane, so
we haven't lost an engine, sir. We're just. That's what that was. Yeah.
We haven't lost an engine, sir. Someone has shit their head off on this entire plane, and it is everywhere. And it was.
We had a cooking contest on the show one day, and Jimmy is famously known for his lack of hygiene, and he made chili, and I had it during the show. So it was like 8:00 in the morning, and we're off just before 10. And I was like, oh, man, every time you eat anything Jimmy's touched or been around or prepared for you, it is a roulette wheel. Like you're spinning, like the odds of you getting diarrhea are very strong. It's why I don't think he'll die, because he has been consuming and living in filth for so long that he is immune to.
He's his own biohazard. Biohazards meet other biohazards; they just become super biohazards.
And more than a couple of times, he's made the whatever it is for us, and Grant will never eat it, and I always feel bad for him, so I'll eat it. And he made this chili, and he thought he was being smart, and he put pepperoni sticks in it. He cut up pepperoni sticks and put it. And it wasn't great, but I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I had a bowl, and I'm leaving, and I'm in the car. And this is when I still lived in St. Albert, and it's a 40-minute drive, give or take, depending on traffic. Mm-hmm. And I'd say about 20 minutes in, I'm on the Anthony Henday, and I'm still on my way home. And at this point, like I live in the suburbs. There's no chance to pull out and hit a Timmy's or anything like that. I got to get home now, or I got to shit on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. And my guts were just gurgling. And I drove literally into my house, up on my lawn, threw the door open, ran into the house, tore my pants down. And as my pants came down, poo was flying out of me into the toilet. The car was running with the door open on the front lawn of my house. And I was just sitting in there, just like hot lava flying out of me. And this is an hour and a half after I ate his food. It stirred something inside of me, and I had a violent reaction to it, and I almost crapped my Subaru.
He almost didn't crap my Subaru. We've all been there. I remember when I was on the 401. Actually, it was a DVP and then the 401. And if you live in the city of Toronto, if you get stuck in traffic, you're stuck for hours. It's not like you go, hey, I'll take this exit. Everybody's taking that
guys
exit.
that poo on the side of the road on 401.
Dude, I've seen it probably 1,000 times. DVP, 401, people getting out, like opening up both doors, trying to side of the road next to a median, trying to relieve themselves. And it's honest to God, I've seen it 1,000 times. There was one time, and we have wings at work. You're coming back from work at like 12 o'clock. I drank a shitload the night before, and everything starts to move, right? And I'm like, getting a little hot, getting a little sweaty, get a little crampy. And I'm like, this is not good because traffic is stopped at noon. And I look on my app and I'm like, oh my God, the car accident is like 10 kilometers ahead of me and I'm stopped and there's no exit for 6 kilometers. What do I do? And I had to be one of those people one time that had to get out of their car, jump over a median, go down into a valley, do my business, look frantically for something to clean up with, and then come back out. When I got back up to my car, cop was stopped next to my car. He goes, "What's your car doing here?" I go, and I explained it to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we do that all the time." I'm like, "Oh,
I went hiking with the wife.
Actually, he gave me a roll of toilet paper, and he said, "You need this?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good."
He has that in the car.
Yeah, he does.
You need to clean up.
I get stuck all the time. Yeah. You had wet wipes too. I was really happy to see him. I was like, I was
hiking with my wife, and I got the call from nature, and I'm like, honey, I hate to say this, I can't. We're in the middle of Jasper, like we're out in the woods, and I'm like, I've got to go poo in the woods. I don't want to do this, but I have to. Like, if we keep going, I'm going to shit my pants. She's like, oh, Jesus. So I take a little bit of a hike into the woods, and I find a good spot, and I've got paper towel or something from our lunch or whatever to wipe her. Like, I didn't prepare for this. I think she had a thing of Kleenex or something in her hand too. So I had everything I could with me to clean up. And so I managed to get my pants down and I managed to do this. And I'm like pretty proud of myself. I'm like, I actually, I didn't get any on my shoes. Like I do yoga every day. Right. So I'm pretty agile. I got her all out and I cleaned up and I go to put my pants on and I forgot that I put my cell phone in my back pocket and it flipped out as my pants got up just over my hips. My cell phone flipped out and went right in the poo.
Oh, that's the worst. That happened to me at IKEA, but it was a urinal. It's in my keys. It's different.
Try to clean that off of an iPhone 12.
I don't know. No, that's like a nightmare. What you just described to me as a nightmare. It's like that panic that sets in as soon as something like that happens, where you drop your phone in your own poop, and you're like, "What do I do now? Like, do I pick it up? What am I supposed to do here? Do I just leave it?
Do I walk away and eat the $1,000?
That would be seriously a thought in my head. I would be like, what do I do?
You know the joke about the guy that dropped the quarter in the outhouse?
No.
Buddy catches him throwing a 20 down there and he goes, what the hell are you doing? He goes, I wasn't going down there for a quarter.
That's the dumbest joke I ever heard. Why does it make me laugh?
Because it's so stupid.
Because it's so stupid. I'm very visual. And I'm imagining this guy dropping a quarter down there going, fuck. Throwing a 20 down there and going, now it's worth. Anyway, thanks for that. That's a nice place to end it off
It's a
today.
good way to
Lochlin
end.
Cross. Woo! 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton. 957cruisefm.ca.
This is a good 15 minutes of poo talk.
Oh, yeah, right at the end. It was funny. I was talking to my man Charles Adler this week. He goes, you don't need to do all the poo talk. And I'm like, you're right. And then as soon as we started planning the show today, I'm like, we got a couple of shit stories. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Adler's old school. I can't see him sitting through this conversation.
No. And he's right. I'm like, I can't help it though. I can't. It's like a fucking itch I have to scratch from time to time. I'm like,
every day I come back into the control room after I take a dump. I tell the guys about what I experienced in there.
Yes, I know.
And every day they're like, we didn't need to hear that.
Yeah, they don't. No one. I don't need to hear it either. Just you keep it to yourself. We won't do any of this next time we talk.
It's my way of exercising my creative bone because I say something new every day.
It's the same all the time. It's
not. No, I have something new to say about what I did in
your
there.
bowels. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's never new. It's always the same routine. It always impresses you.
You guys are not going to believe what that smelled like. They'll be like, we don't want to know. I'm like, cabbage with a mix of barbecue.
I'm not supposed to find any of this funny, but
I know you do. That's why I do it.
Cabbage with a mix of barbecue. That's so specific. I can smell it. 957cruisefm.ca.
I'm leaving.
Lochlin Cross. Yeah, you're done.
All right.
At Lochlin Cross on Twitter is where you can find it. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you after he just pieces out. Comes in, destroys an intellectual conversation, and then talks about going to the bathroom, and then he pieces out. That's why I love the man. Have a great day, everybody. And a great weekend as well. We'll see you on Monday. Thank you very much to our friends and partners at Cantork for making this possible. Cantork Digital Solutions. Cantork offers bolting and Cantork offers bolting, loosening, and fastening solutions is what you do with the bolt. And sometimes the bolts are very big because the machinery you're using is massive. These guys offer torque wrench solutions for every single application for anything you need a loosener or fastener for, and they make it for you. They service it, they fabricate it, they manufacture it, everything, design it. Heavy machinery, the steel industry, it doesn't matter. Forestry, nuclear. Hey, listen, we've been through this. Railroad industry, you need a torque wrench. You need it made by people in Canada because you're a Canadian industry. These guys do this stuff all over the world. Bolting, loosening, fastening solutions. It is at cantork.com. Go to cantork.com for more information today. And, of course, Ed's Fine Imports. We wear his gitch. So can you. It's a boxer briefs pouch in the front. You're going to love it. You're going to love these underwear. You get a free pair of underwear and use promo code GITCH3. GITCH3 is your promo code. Boxer briefs, luxurious. Again, that pouch is awesome. Keeps your stuff away from your legs. Everything is breathable, footloose, and fancy free. The best luxury branded boxer brief on the planet, made by Canadians for Canadians. So the pouch is bigger, but you can order from the States too if you like. edsfineimports.com. Gitch, and then the number 3, that's your promo code. I'll send you a free pair when you order today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks for joining us. A little bit of a fun Friday. Hopefully we get Adam Scorgie back too. Talk about his stuff. Dane Cook documentary. Didn't work out today. Audio issues. We'll do it next week. Have a great day. See you then. Bye.